Boy, can I help you?
Listen up. I'm bringing you the best content to ever exist in the door-to-door industry, from sales, leadership, recruiting, and personal development.
Why would I need that?
Because never before have we been able to collaborate with the top experts in their industries, sharing their secrets and techniques on what makes them the best.
Wait, who are you?
I'm your host, Sam Taggart, creator of the D2D Experts and D2D Con. Is there a place we can sit down?
Well, come on in.
Vanilla is the fastest way to increase your Google and Facebook reviews through text. With a 98% open rate, Vanilla Reviews is the simplest, cheapest way to interact and engage with customers. Visit us at vanillagood.com for more information.
Hey everybody, I'm Sam Taggart with the D2D Podcast, and we are coming at you from Lehi, Utah, where we're looking at Mount Timpanogos behind us, and I'm interviewing today a really special guest who's done door-to-door for 13 plus years, and he now works with, a little bit of legacy, but mainly Develop, which is a software company that helps all sorts of different solutions, I guess. It's a sales enablement platform, right?
Yeah.
And he's helped a lot of companies really scale their business, give some cool tools and insights. And today we're going to be jamming on how, the 3 deadly sins of recruiting. And so he was a speaker at D2D Con, and he did a workshop on recruiting and how to leverage technology and systems to make sure that you're recruiting right, retaining right, and really growing and scaling as a company. So honestly, super excited to have you on the show today.
No, thanks. It's fun. Love it.
We go way back. I mean,
D2D Tribe, what's up?
Yeah.
Glad to be a part of this. It's fun. It's great to see all of it that's come together. See the community of people really, band together to help each other, learn, grow. I think it's a phenomenal thing that we're all trying to be a part of.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's kind of rewind in a nutshell. Who recruited you? If we're going to talk about recruiting,
let's break it down.
Yeah, I'm like, let's talk about how you got recruited. I think that's an interesting question.
It's a really good question. So I was going to school at Utah State. That was back in the day where you had a bunch of different companies, industries were really getting going. Had the opportunity to be really good friends with Cody Vabel.
Oh, okay.
Cody's one of my
Love you, Cody.
longtime friends. He literally couldn't say anything bad about the guy. And he really went out of his way comparatively to some of the other groups that I was talking to. I mean, I flew out to California to meet with companies. I was, everybody was taking everybody to dinner back then, right? So we were 3 nights a week at dinners with different companies.
So were you shopping? You're like, who's shopping?
Yeah, I wasn't sure, right? I was trying to just figure it out, and this whole idea of door-to-door sales, I'm I really want to be, with a company that I know I can excel with, and everybody was trying to position why and how and who and all the above. And so, yeah, it was full-time shopping gig. And of course it was, as a young college kid, you're I'll take free meals whenever they come. So it was pizza parties and Hamilton's and Logan.
So what pushed you over the edge? What did Cody do that was different that set him apart to win your business?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Cody really spent a lot of time with me really trying to actually build a relationship, right? Actually wanted to understand a lot more about who was I, what was I trying to accomplish. He really dug in and spent time with me, helping me understand why we could be successful together. And really, in reality, Cody was a guy who when I looked at him and saw the skills and what he was able to go and accomplish, he was a guy that I wanted to be, at some point, right? And so obviously, him being one of the VPs at Vivint, it shows that he was a guy who obviously knew how to get it done and has had a very successful track record. And so, yeah, I definitely saw some parts of what Cody did. We did a lot of fun things together, of course, but at the end of the day, it was finding little things like, come over to the house, let's spend time together, let's actually walk through this, hey, let's go knock doors together, let me show you sales, let me just handhold you through this process.
You want to know something funny?
What's that?
So it was between Nick Hansen and Cody Vabel, and he courted me.
Of course.
He didn't earn my business, but he did. Hey,
Cody, come on, dude.
Come on,
what
couldn't
happened?
close me, brother. No, but here's what's funny. So he did close me, and he used the best soft close I think I've seen in recruiting. Check this.
What was it?
So my phone, I had some dinky phone, just switch. He's like, what the hell? Why do you have a dinky phone? The only time I've ever had an iPhone, Cody's like, come with me. He drives me to the phone store. He buys
Buys
me
you an
and my wife new iPhones, and he's like, "Let's get you rolling, brother."
Right.
And he freaking just was like, "Here," and I was like,
That's it.
"What a cool soft close." Anyway, so I felt so like loyal and tied. I ended up not going with them. I was like, "But I got these phones," and I was like, "Hey, can I pay you?" Like, I was like, "Oh," so I actually paid him back for the phones, and I felt really bad, but I was
Sure.
like, "What a power!" Like he went out of his way to even like say, "Just come on, let's do it." And I think he even said, he's like, "No, dude, it's cool, it's on me." Like he didn't even like want the
Didn't care.
money
It
back.
wasn't
He's
about
like,
the
it
money.
wasn't about the money, like, but it was different than what most recruiters would have done,
Sure.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
So shout out. There's a fun little nugget for you guys. But anyway, so fast
Cody,
forward.
you should have taken his money.
So fast forward, you had a career in the alarm space, and then you got recruited into solar. Talking to me about that, like.
Yeah, it was interesting. For me, Cody knew this going in when we first started recruiting, that, he had really helped me understand that there was an opportunity to really grow within the organization. But I think he always understood that there was parts of me that would want to go off and do my own thing at some point. And so for me personally, I spent 8 years doing door-to-door in the alarm space. Felt like I had some pretty good opportunities to win some competitions individually, be a part of teams that won competitions. And ultimately for me, it was just kind of going and getting that like entrepreneurial itch to go do something different, right? But for me, I didn't really think that I had all the rounded skills to go and craft a really successful business. So I actually just one day said, okay, like I'm going to move on, and went and did grad school, which is not obviously the normal in our space,
Yeah,
right?
you were like, I'm going to go get education.
I'm going to go get some education, and ultimately spent 2 years with Verizon on their corporate side, which like I thought it would be the worst thing in the world to go spend 2 years in corporate America. Learned a ton. I ultimately realized that wasn't what I wanted to do long term, but I gained a ton of value out of the opportunities I had to participate in projects there. And then got with Doug and his team at Legacy. He was obviously recruiting me to come and do some different things within his organization. And so fast forward to today, and we own 2 different businesses. So obviously there's Legacy Power, which is in the solar business, and then this group Canvas, right? And so Canvas, we built tools for Legacy originally. The nice thing is that these guys have been building tools for 15 years in the space.
The
like
Pinnacles of
they
the
built
world,
Pinnacle's dashboard. They built Vivint Insider dashboard. I mean, they did
Yeah.
all these things from way back when. And so Doug was quick to realize that. And so obviously they made something work there. And so fast forward to today, we have what we call a sales performance platform, where really we're taking sales enablement tools coupled with sales training. We mash that all together to create what we call sales performance. And so we're really aligned on trying to help companies better understand how to really scale, how to really grow, and be more than just a one-dimensional software piece. Because obviously, I think it takes a whole army to build a business. And so software, I think, is definitely more than one piece of the puzzle, but it definitely is.
Yeah, well,
it's
let's take Legacy, for example. Doug quickly realized, hey, I need to have a solar solution, because selling solar the old way was so complicated. I had this document through this loan, through this thing.
Better than anybody else. You did it.
It was like 10 different signatures on 10 different platforms, and Doug was like, this is broken. And I think he was one of the first to kind of realize that if I invest a lot of money into tech, it's going to simplify the sales process, which is then going to make my guys sell more. And don't you feel like that? When I remember I was getting into solar, I was getting recruited by a million people, and when he showed me that, I was like, oh, that is dope. In the competition
it starts to click, right?
Yeah.
So I think about software in a lot of different ways, but ultimately at the end of the day, I think it's what you just said, right? When we go into our business and we're either launching our own business, or we're early on in our careers of recruiting the first guys into our team, we've got to think through what makes their job really simplistic in nature, right? What are all the things that we can eliminate that can be kind of automated to make it to where it's as easy as physically possible to get the rep into the business, but also a customer from A to Z. And solar's probably, I'm sure there's got to be more process-oriented sales than solar, but it's definitely process-heavy for sure, comparatively to at least anything I ever did in the alarm space. Heck, we'd knock doors, right? Like 30 minutes, tech showing up, we're rolling out. Like it was no big deal. But ultimately, solar takes a lot more work, and so Doug obviously realized that very quickly, and so it was one where we built tools that were really focused on an actual process versus just wham bam thank you ma'am type deals.
Yeah, and also the competition side of things. I think Doug realized, coming from Pinnacle to Vivint to here, to what makes some of these big sales companies who they are is the scoreboard, the competitiveness, this whole cup thing. Talk about last summer. By just having the right cultural and competition and dashboarding around that, how did that help how did that help production from a legacy standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll give you an example, and this was like phenomenal to watch kind of unfold, right?
Yeah.
So we've got this guy Damien in our company, who is kind of the mastermind behind all these competitions, right? Was a part of Pinnacle, was at Vivint. He was really understanding of what does a competition take, what do you got to put into it, how do you structure it in a way that makes sense for the business as well as for the reps, right? Because anytime people look at competitions, it's about let's just go put on the volume, right? But at the end of the day, if you're smart about it, you can actually put on the right type of business while you're at it, right? So you can really start to dig into what's the KPIs of the business, where are we more profitable, and you can start to align the sales force with what you need in the business as a business owner as well. And so solar is obviously year-round, and so we wanted to run a year-round competition. So we did it kind of like a MBA season, for instance, right? So a normal regular season with on and off. Some weeks we were on, some weeks we were off. We would do a playoff system where it was like back to back to back, and you kept going through and you'd play through those, and then ultimately a championship, right? So it just so happens that we realized in that business that right before Thanksgiving is a really tough time for salespeople, right? The week before Thanksgiving, everybody's checking out. They're like, I'm going on my vacation to see my family or go to the beach or whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, we thought, well, if we have a big lack in sales, well, why don't we lay our competition and structure them in places where we need sales volume, right?
Yeah.
At the end of quarters, at the end of the summers, at the end of the winter quarter. Obviously you're looking at Thanksgiving and Christmas. Where do we get the big ramp, right? So we structured the championship week to be the week before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Right? So we had about 150 reps within Legacy competing the last week with their different teams. And it was a team style competition. But ultimately we'd have to go look at the numbers, but it was like literally almost 40% of the sales force had their best week ever.
40%.
Ever. 40%. Legacy Power had their best week ever in 4 years of company history the week before Thanksgiving.
That's crazy.
It's insane. And
Yeah.
so we were able to leverage that competition platform and that understanding of driving the right things for the business. So you take that, you couple it with smart training, you couple it with obviously a lead management or a data collection tool, and obviously dashboarding behind the scenes so everybody can see it. The executives can align to what's taking place. Now you actually have technology that's cohesive and is actually scaling the organization instead of it just being, one piece to the next and trying to figure out how to make it all function together.
I love it. So let's segue this into recruiting, because this is recruiting. In my opinion, it's like I see somebody have a bigger week than ever and numbers that no one's ever fathoming, and I'm over here getting crappy results at X company.
Right.
I see them. That's recruiting. Like it just simply
is.
and so there's the 3 sins of recruiting, right?
Yep.
And the first one is we overpromise and underdeliver, and we just say a lot, right? I'm gonna go start a little pest control company, right? And
Sure.
I'm like, dude, we're gonna have the best training. You're gonna sell more with us. We pay this. We do this, and then all of a sudden the guy plugs in. And what happens? So talk to me about this kind of like this over expectation or this full of like words but no meat, right?
Yeah, if you think about it in sales, right? Like the age-old saying is stop talking, talk. Actually listen,
Yeah.
right? But at the end of the day, when we're first starting out, we do a lot of talking, right? So it's the same thing when we're recruiting. We're like, we're the best. We know how to do this better than anybody else. Here's the reasons why we're going to be so much better. And it's a lot of fluff a lot of times. And so I think sales reps, especially as they're seasoned in the business, they can see through that very, very quickly. But I mean, and even now, like you think about it, you're recruiting on a lot of like what it can be and they talk about what is it going to be in 3 to 5 years versus what is it today, and people quickly get in and they go, oh no, I made a big mistake, right? And so they start to understand really fast, oh my gosh, I've just been sold, which we all know people love to buy, they hate to be sold.
Yes.
Right? And so that's the same thing in recruiting. They want to be a part of your team, they want to be a part of something greater, but if they felt like they got sold a bag of nothing, that's where it unravels. Like it goes quick. Like,
yeah, and I think to back that up, like let's just take you're gonna sell more at my company. Let's say that's this whole the angle
pitch.
the recruiting pitch. Well, if I had a tool like the university platform or whatever pitch, or if I had a tool that I could pull up and be like, let me show you how you are going to sell more that differentiates us versus the other company, and then that's what we help companies do, right? So it's like, let me show you this platform that we have and these videos that we have and this system and accountability and the tracking and the programs that we implemented into our meeting structures and our this. And this is actually what we have today and what we're doing versus what's your company doing?
Right.
That to me is like take all fluff out, right? And I think there's the tool, the technology, the proof in the pudding that so many people lack. It's just like they
For
said,
sure.
they talk versus like, let's pull up a computer real quick. You tell me, do you think this would help you sell more?
Walk them through it.
Walk them through it.
I think about it. It's like, in my D2D con presentation, like the first part of it, it was literally like, how do you recruit? Are you just recruiting on a pay scale in your big truck and your fancy house?
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. That happened a lot back in the day, right?
Oh, for
and
sure.
it still does. The funny thing is then I told them, I framed this up. I said, okay, so let me show you what your recruiting class looks like for this year, right? And it was a bunch of guys that looked like they all came from the Jersey Shore wearing, wife beaters and muscles and tats and all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, that's who you get, right? Like,
yep.
And that's not to say that can be a bad thing. Obviously, industries are dependent, and it's whatever you want it to be. But I think as we get smarter in direct sales, we start to understand that it's not just about the money. The money comes. It will be a part of what we attract to us if we actually go and put in the time and the effort, right? So this idea of a system, as you said earlier, right? That's kind of like walking into bullet point number 2. You've got to have a blueprint for what actually walks them through how and where they're going to become successful as part of your organization. And I think as part of that system, you really have to understand who these people actually are, right? Just like when you fact find with your customers, when you're going through whatever product or service you're putting in front of them, you have to know what their hot buttons are. You have to understand what their needs and wants are as an individual or a family or whatever it might be. And ultimately, it's the same thing with recruiting. You have to dig deep into the layers to truly understand what is it going to take to make Sam Taggart happy, right? And so an iPhone sounds like it worked pretty well, but it didn't quite.
Only time I've had an iPhone for a total of 2 months. So if he would have bought me an Android, I probably would have signed with the guy. He didn't ask.
Right?
I was just playing.
At the end of the day, I think what it drives down to is you literally have to have a system. You have to have a blueprint. You have to have something that's so systematic. I think about when I was selling, and I would literally, I got to the point in my career where it was, I asked the exact same questions at the exact same time, getting the exact same results, and ultimately I watched my sales absolutely skyrocket, right?
Yeah.
When I got into what I call like predictable success, it was because I had created this process that I knew was bulletproof, where I'm like, if I do A, B, and C, I get D, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about finding out what your system is, and it's plugging guys in that system. Right?
Yeah, and that's the sin number 2
it's done.
And that's sin number 2, guys. It's simply you don't have a system to plug them into, nor you don't even know what your own system is. For 3 things. How to recruit. There's a system around recruiting. Conversation, finding people, getting your people to recruit. There's the system of, okay, what happened? And that's why I built Recruitomatic. It's a software. I was like, I'm going to build a software that's a system on organizing my recruiting pipelines.
Yes.
And we've been crushing with that because it's like, I watch guys have a freaking notes in their phone and no systemized to say, how do you keep accountable to recruiting?
They keep it. This is how they like. This is where I love it because people in sales are like, I'm like, how do you track your sales funnel? How do you track your recruiting?
How do you
funnel?
track your? I'm like,
Apple Notes.
Apple Notes. That's
I'm
the
like,
answer. I'm like an Excel or something. I'm like
that seems really
smart.
difficult
Smart.
and a total headache.
So that's what Recruitomatic is, a talent management tracking system where you can keep people accountable. So it goes back to, if I was a recruiting company, if I'm like a pest control company or something, a solar company, and I could go to a manager that I'm like, we're looking to recruit, I'm like, hey, one of your biggest pain points is probably growth and recruiting. What does your current company use for a system to actually help you do that? Well, I just got it on my notes. They hound me on to make sure I recruit, blah, blah, blah.
They just ask how many potential recruits and how many recruits I have, right?
And that's the extent.
That's what it was.
That's what it was, right? So if I'm a recruiting company or trying to get you as a leader, I'm like, check this out. Our company, we have this software, and it tracks exactly what you're doing. You can have your team leads that I'll keep accountable, and you can actually manage their pipelines and help them, and you know what I mean? And they're like, oh, that's pretty dope. Are you more inclined to come work for my company or stay at yours? You know what I mean? That's a simple system.
And if you think about it, Sam, you always want to have a competitive pay scale at the end of the day. But if you can help people see how and where they're going to be able to convert more deals, right, and more sales to the bottom line, you'll make more money. It's inevitable. Right?
100%. And that goes to the third thing is a sales system and a sales training system. So like the first thing is a recruiting system. Second thing is a sales system or a training system on how to get them to sell. Yeah. Because here's the other thing. I've watched people recruit 100 people and they lose 100 people. And I'm like, good job. I had a coaching conversation yesterday with a guy. And he's like, well, I'm really nervous about this whole recruiting system. And, I just every year I recruit, I just lose them all at the end of the summer. I'm like, you don't need a recruiting system. You need to teach somebody needs to teach you how to train and lead.
You gotta actually run your system.
Yeah, like somebody needs to teach you. Like you need.
Sounds like you need to recruit.
Yeah, I was like, you can recruit. The problem is you can't keep them.
Yep.
And the reason why is because they're not making money, and they're not getting trained properly or led properly. And so having a system when you onboard them, when you're 6 weeks from now, what is he doing? In a year, how is he going from this to this? So like, what are some things that you found that helps? Step number 2, which would be a training system, things at Legacy when you onboard somebody, or things that you've implemented with certain companies.
Yeah, training is a really interesting one, right? Because if you think about it, when you bring them into the organization, salespeople want to do one thing. They want to just get going and they want to sell, and they don't want to sit behind a old school computer for 2 weeks going through testing and all this other nonsense to like get them up to speed, right? And that's really not what we do. We're like, come out, join us on the doors, let's go knock together, I'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you've got to have a way to be able to break down the entire sales process, right? You got to create micro topics, and you got to be able to create categories that actually can start to formulate a full repository of videos. And so ultimately, we launched a product called Pitch here, about 10 months ago, but it really was structured around how do people learn, right? So as I told you earlier, I spent time at Verizon, right? Did digital advertising for 2 years around mobile advertising. And ultimately it was around how do we go and get more content in front of people, how do we get engaging content, but also how do we convert, right? So we took a lot of the same principles and theories that I had learned there. We started to think through, well, who are the people that are in this business that we're recruiting today?
ADD.
They're ADD, and how old are they? They're generally speaking a millennial or a Gen Z, right? So how do all those people learn? So let's break it down, right? So if we want to do training, we got to think through how do they actually learn? Well, there's these few little basic platforms that everybody learns from. Instagram, Snapchat, Marco Polo, maybe Facebook. That's like it. That's where they get all their content. That's where they go watch videos. They'll hear people post things, whatever. A little bit Twitter here and there, but millennials
YouTube.
And Gen Zs, like, they're really just like, give me Instagram, give me Snapchat, I'm good, right? So we took those principles and recognized that obviously that's how they need to learn for training. So we created a training platform that now integrates into their canvassing tools, and we're able to obviously provide training to them where it's bits and small pieces of the entire sales process. So we cap videos at a minute long. We make it to where it's quick, simple, and easy. But that's really, in my opinion, a very simple format for how do you actually break down training. So it's not even about pitch, it's about actually taking a step back and thinking through how do these people learn, how do they want to learn, right? They want to learn by getting out there and getting on the doors. They don't want to sit and take tests. That's just, we're ADD, we're wired that way. And they want to be able to learn really, really quickly and very focused and get back on the doors because that's where they make their money.
Yep.
Right? So we don't want to take them off the doors. We want to keep them cranking.
And then the third one is a sales tool, meaning I watch guys plug in. So solar, let's just do solar.
Yeah.
So you recruit a bunch of guys, and if the sales process takes me 4 hours versus X company that takes me 20 seconds, you know what I mean? It's
For
like
sure.
like that was actually, I'm not trying to dog on anybody. When I first got into solar, Vivint Solar's recruiting me and this other company's recruiting me, right? And I was like, how does your closing docs work and closing
does that look like?
process? And a veteran rep's going to ask that. A rookie rep's never going to ask that question, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because they don't even know. So I'm sitting there going, well, if it takes me a week to close a deal here and it takes me a day to close a deal here, wouldn't I close more deals here? Even though you're maybe paying me more here, I'm going to close more deals here, therefore make more money. Because at the end of the day, I care about what my bank account looks like.
Of course.
And so a lot of people will recruit off of a pay scale versus a, well, you're going to have a bottleneck of installs, a bottleneck of sales, because you're spending so much time trying to email and trying to fix this and trying to, you know what I mean?
Countless hours.
It's the hours spent there versus just closing more deals. Roofing industry is the best example. I watch them call them project managers.
Okay.
I don't know if you know much about the roofing. So if you're in roofing, check this out. I go consult a lot of these roofing companies. I'm speaking next week at a big one. And anyway, I'll go in. I'm like, what's your salesman have to do? And I'm like, if you're recruiting me, that I'm a talented sales dude, and tell me what I would need to do to get paid on a deal. And they're more of a process, right? So they're like, okay, you got to sell them, sign the contingency, you got to call the insurance, you got to go then meet with the adjuster, then you got to go get the scope from the adjuster, then you got to go back to the customer, you got to close them, then you got to go watch it get built, then you got to go collect after it's been paid by the insurance, and then you got to go, you know what I mean? I'm like, wait, you're telling me that's what I have to do to go close or make money
So it's
on a
as
roof?
good as solar.
Oh, dude, I'm talking like, but they make the sales dude do all of that.
it.
And I'm like,
Holy.
hell no, dude.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So I was like,
of
how
work.
about this? No, I got to go do an inspection on the roof. I forgot that step, right?
Oh,
got to go
boy.
jump down, show them the pictures, then submit the pictures, you know what I mean? All this
All the
stuff.
work.
And then all the paperwork behind that. And I'm like, I'm a sales dude. I got ADD. I can't even finish emailing everybody. So anyway, talk about sales systems. I was like, what if you just had an app? And what if you paid a dude $8 an hour to go jump on the roof and actually take some pictures and just follow you around? And I just could go sell the next door neighbor in the meantime.
For sure.
And I could then just press a couple buttons and then it would go boom, 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 boom. And then the roofer's like,
Oh, light goes off.
yeah, light bulb goes off.
Bingo.
And so I was like, all right, follow me. I'm out in Maryland. I was like, and I'm getting on the roof. I not my first roof. This is the first time I ever did roofs. I'm in Maryland, this little company, and he's like, all right, now we're going to get up on the roof. We're going to inspect. Okay, that took me 30 minutes, and I was like getting bored. I'm like, I thought we were out here doing sales training. You don't need to show me how to take pictures of a roof.
Right.
I was like, next door I sell. I'm going to have you get up on the roof and take some
And I'm gonna
pictures,
go sell the
and I'm
next
going to go
door.
next door. I got them 2 guys following me then because I got them so busy up on roofs.
Yep.
So I was like, I need another one of you guys who can't even keep up with taking the pictures. So I'm like, all right, see my guy up there, see my guy in there. I'm on closing more deals. And they were like, oh.
The Jones effect's got real.
Yeah, I'm like, see that guy? See that guy? You're next. He'll be over here in 5. And that was my pitch.
And you're just going.
And I'm just on to the next one. And they were like, wow. I'm like, I closed more deals in 2 hours than you guys closed in 2 weeks. Because I didn't have to sit there for 30 minutes.
Of course.
And then all of a sudden, that's where I think a lot of people fail is this, like the actual selling process that they plug people into creates a failure. That's this, you know what I mean?
For sure.
Anyway, I want to put those 2 cents in there because I've just watched companies and I've consulted over 50 last year, and I'm
Yeah.
like, there's good ones that are winning
Sure.
and they're crushing, and they're sales guys. They were like, this is easy, and I can recruit off of that.
Of course.
And then there's ones that I'm like, oh man, I would just come into this and get shell shocked and be like, this is a headache.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, at the end of the day, companies are either leveraging software in their recruiting process or they're not.
Yep.
And the reality is if they're not, somebody else is. Because somebody's taking the time to actually spend with the rep and help them to see, here's our system, here's our process, here's how we go and do these things. Here's how and why you can be a turnkey solution walking into the business, right? I mean, if you think about it, like I I truthfully believe that door-to-door sales is essentially a franchise in the box. I'm
Yes.
like, we don't even charge for this stuff. Like, Chick-fil-A's like right around the corner here. They're one of the cheapest franchises to get into. It's 10 grand, right? Most are even a lot more expensive than that. And you got to have crazy amounts of liquid cash, etc. But at the end of the day, direct sales is literally a franchise where we say, look, come be a part of our organization, be a part of our brand, go do A, B, and C, and it gives you D. And ultimately, it's a franchise. You're
100%.
able to just turn what everybody knows how to go and work through, and you're ready to go.
It's insane because I think a lot of people, they just throw mud at the wall.
Yeah.
Like, if you think you can recruit by throwing mud at the wall, you're going to take a long time growing. How many guys does Legacy have? Like, if you had to guess. sales
Anywhere
guys.
from probably 900 to 1,200 at any given moment, depending on the seasonality of the business.
And a lot of reps, or a lot of people listening to this podcast probably couldn't even fathom 1,200 reps. I go and I mean, I'll speak and stuff, and they're like, I just want to get to 5.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
but I'm like, guys, you need to be laying the foundations, and there's programs and technologies and things out there that will help you, that are actually very affordable, that
Yeah.
speed that up, that take a hat off, instead of you sitting there behind an Excel, you sitting there behind XYZ saying, I got to do everything, and it slows your business growth down.
Yeah.
I mean, Legacy's what? This has been only a couple years.
I mean, that's
And-
really in reality, Sam, what it comes down to is how do we actually scale organizations? Recruiting is scaling, right? Because you're putting headcount on that can go put on volume that ultimately creates dollars to the bottom line. So how do we actually do that? And just what you described is if you're a business owner who's literally got no systems and no tools and no technology and you're trying to do it all yourself, there's no way you're ever going to scale your organization. So that's where when we spent time thinking through what is our platform really out to accomplish, it's about sales performance. It's about
Which is-
scaling the company.
Which is the sin number 3. They don't have a tool or system to duplicate success.
Correct.
I can't replicate a top performer because there's no conscious competency, or what you said, predictability.
Predictive success.
Predictive success. You can't create predictive success without any tools or system to create that. So, in my opinion, that's the sin number 3 is they struggle recruiting because they can't show, well, look, I plugged this guy in and look where he went. I plugged this guy in, look where he went. I plugged
Correct.
this guy in, look where he went. And now you're here where you went. Go get guys to plug in, and then you keep
And then
doing
we just
that.
keep
It's
the cycle.
You keep the cycle, and
Yep.
and it's an A plus B equals C. And what happens is you're then getting your leaders to plug a dude in, and then another leader to plug a dude in, and it just that is scale.
It's just the snowball effect, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about momentum, momentum is a funny thing. It takes months and months to create and can literally take seconds to ruin. And so if you think about that one for a quick second, that's really the goal here is go and create momentum by putting things in place that make the machine start moving to the point where it's just in sync and it's in rhythm. And obviously, we've got to spend time and effort in multiple different parts of our companies in order to continue that momentum and that success. But definitely the software and technology can be a part of that system that really enables reps to unlock their potential. Because I look at so many reps that I watched over all the years who I'm like, they are phenomenal, right? But they got into situations where they maybe got recruited for the wrong reasons into some company that literally destroyed them for a period of time, and they had to kind of take a step back, recognize that there was an opportunity to go back to a system, and boom, they created success again in their own organizations or their own groups. But you watch that happen a lot.
So let's speak to the dude that doesn't have a massive multi-million-dollar solar company. Let's speak to the dude that's like in the phase before momentum, and I call it concentration. And it's like me going to the gym for 6 months, still don't have a six-pack, and I'm like, that's called concentration. I've been to the gym.
We're
and it's
starting
like,
from ground zero, quote unquote.
Yes. So I haven't hit that momentum phase. I haven't hit the I'm. When am I gonna have my break? Right.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to that dude that's like in concentration mode, laying the foundation, but can't see the built house at that point? Right. It's kind of like, What would you tell that guy?
I mean, I think a lot of it, I've been fortunate enough in my career to have 2 startups on my own as well, outside of all of this. And so I really take a step to think through it in that perspective and think, okay, if I'm going to go start a new organization, which in my opinion is a new business, a new startup, a new venture, whatever it is, really start to think through what's going to make your company stand out and be different than somebody else, right? I think of companies that they have certain parts of their culture that are way different than other companies. And to me, I don't see that as a bad thing for one company or the other, but it's what attracts the right talent or what they're trying to get and what those people are buying into to be a part of. And so that's an element of it.
So identify your differentiator.
Identify the differentiator to really try to value what's going to make you different than somebody else. Because ultimately, if you can't show that to a recruit, then it's just going to come down to literally, so how much are you going to pay me?
Money versus money.
And that's a short-lived strategy for any company, because that dude is only going to be at your company as long as he doesn't get offered more money to go somewhere else. And the second that happens, so yeah, he's out, right? So I think that's phase number 1. I think phase number 2 is actually thinking through, so now that we actually have this vision and this mission statement and our own personal mission statements, right? What's going to make us different? How are we going to, make that a very apparent change for those that we work with? The next phase is, okay, well then what am I going to be able to do to put into place that's going to make these people successful, right? What sort of processes do we actually need to think through? This is something I learned in grad school. It's funny because it was like the first day of school and they said, we're going to teach you one thing in business. And of course I'm like, there's a million things to learn in business, right? But they said one word that's going to emphasize more and more and more the more you go through school is process. At that time, I had no clue what they were getting at. But ultimately, as I've been able to go through my career and see some of these things develop, the process of becoming as an individual, the process of becoming as a business, that process of instituting, the A plus B plus C equals D scenario, right? Those sort of things, you've got to understand what that process is and create that blueprint. I'd look at think of an Urban Meyer or a Nick Saban or some of the greatest coaches out there in different sports. Everything about what they do is systematic. They approach it the same way and they get the exact same results. I mean, there's a reason why those guys recruit top tier classes every single year, right? They just have a proven track record. And over time, that makes it easier. But if I'm, let's think of a small school, let's, even just like a Utah State, for instance, right? They're now starting to get some of this momentum in their organization. Well, how did they do that? They took a step back and said, where can we differentiate? How can we be different? What's going to attract the talent that we're looking for? And let's go build on that momentum, right? I think of some of the big companies in the door-to-door space right now, and, you look at it and I'm like, they're behemoths. They are monsters. They have huge organizations and they're not slowing down anytime soon, right? But that's not to say you can't go and start something and have something really special that's yours and you can grow and be a part of. And I think you have to be willing to identify what sort of company do I really want to build. And that's also some guys want to be a part of small companies. Some people want to be a part of huge companies. You just got to know who you're attracting and what they want to be a part of. And I think where you have that alignment, that momentum really creates that momentum and snowballs, and then all of a sudden you've got what you've been looking to go accomplish.
I love it. Nugget after nugget after nugget. And if you're learning something, share this or like this right now, because we're in the heat of recruiting. We're ramping up for peak seasons, and it's in my opinion, so many people are just shooting blind. They're throwing darts out there, being like, I hope I land somebody. And then that dude gets screwed because he didn't land it into an empty promise. And so I love how you've just outlined this out to say, let's avoid these 3 sins. You know what I mean? Let's avoid overpromise. Let's avoid putting people into a system that doesn't work or there is non-existent. And let's duplicate. Let's have a system to duplicate and create and replicate predictable success. And I want to acknowledge you for, one, what you've done over the last 13 years. I mean, there's a reason why you're on the podcast. It's top talent right here. And one, he's a great dude in and of itself outside of work. But 2, just thanks for taking the time, man. This has been awesome.
Love it. It's fun. This is fun to jam. It's fun to sit down and hang out. we're obviously, good buddies outside of the office too, and we can go have some fun. But this is fun to get down and like break down what we've learned over so many years, right? These are the things that have helped us along the way, and that's what I love about what we're doing is we're able to just help each other share and build best practices and allow others to be a part of, how and what makes different companies special. And so grateful for the opportunity to be on here. Love D2D Nation. Let's get cranking. It's busy. It's time. Let's go.
Time.
It's like the warm before the storm, right? I'm like, let's really heat up. 2019 is going to be a huge year for a lot of companies. Like I can feel it in the air for sure.
Love it. Okay, well, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Give them a big thumbs up and share this, or don't share this. Most people are like, I don't want to share this. It was too good. If everybody knew this existed, then they'd go win. And so, or don't. Obviously keep it for yourself. No, but that's the whole point of this is sharing, collaborating. And honestly, a lot of the people watching or listening to this are going to be like, oh, that was really good. And then keep doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? So my invitation is there's a lot of good stuff in this. Go make a difference, change. And we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sam.